Hello, everyone. My name is Bruce, and I'd like to welcome you to today's episode of the Kitbashed Kitchen. Today, we're going to take a barbecued pork loin recipe that I got from a friend, and then we're going to rearrange it and turn it into a herb encrusted, garlic infused, oven roasted version of a pork loin that I will then cut into thick slices, and we will adorn it with a game sauce that I will make from black currants. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the ingredients we need to put this recipe together.
Okay, let's go over the ingredients, starting with approximately 3 pounds of pork loin. We've chosen a pork loin over a pork tenderloin, so when we infuse it with the garlic pieces will stay in the meat much better than they would if we used a tenderloin. Add to that the fact that we are going to bake it in the marinade and its own juices. We don't need to worry about the pork loin drying out. Okay, let's move on to our marinade, starting with the spices first. We'll add in some sage, then followed by some thyme, and then some rosemary, which I will deneedlify in a spice grinder to turn it into a fine powder. Then we will add in some garlic powder, salt, pepper, and then moving on to our liquid ingredients, we will use olive oil and an infused balsamic vinegar. In this case, I'm using cherry. Okay, let's move on to our black currant sauce, starting with some chicken broth I'll create from Better Than Bouillon. Then we will add to that a diced shallot, some more thyme, 3 cups of black currants, and then we will add some honey, some apple cider, and finish off the sauce with salt and pepper to taste and butter. So now it's time to assemble our marinade. We're going to start with our 4 tablespoons of rosemary, which you can see is in its needle form, which many people don't like. So we're going to use a spice grinder to grind it into a nice fine powder. And here you can see it looks much better as a nice fine powder. And ooh, does that smell good. So we'll add this to our 1-gallon bag, followed by our 2 tablespoons of sage and thyme. And then we will add in our 1/2 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and 1 teaspoon of salt. We will then add our liquid ingredients, which is 1/2 cup of olive oil and 1/4 cup of our cherry-infused balsamic vinegar. Then we will seal the bag and give that a good stir mix so we can communge everything together. And then we will grab our pork loin and add it to the bag, reseal, slosh it around a bit, and then we will put it back into the casserole dish, which will return to the refrigerator and then visit a couple of times during the day to slosh it around a couple more times so we have a good coating on it for tomorrow. Okay, we are now preheating our oven to 350 degrees, and it's time to infuse our pork loin with garlic cloves. So I have here an entire bulb of garlic, and I want to demonstrate the target size of those cloves that we're looking for. I also realized that no Kitbashed Kitchen episode would be complete without a gratuitous demonstration of my world-renowned cutting skills. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you find yourself peeling a lot of garlic, I strongly suggest that you pick up one of these handy dandy rubber tubey thingies, because they really make short work of removing the peel from the individual cloves. Okay, now we've cut up enough pieces to give you an idea of the target size we're looking for, so we can skip through the rest of the cutting. And there you have it. Our garlic bulb has been cut down to the individual cloves, and all the cloves are approximately the same size. While we wait for our oven to heat up, it's time to infuse our pork loin with the garlic cloves we just cut down to size. So the first thing we're going to do is release our pork loin from the bag of marinade, and then we will set that aside so that we can put the remainder of it on top after we're done inserting our garlic cloves. Then next, we'll take our sharp knife and we're going to make diagonal incisions into the pork loin and then insert a garlic clove where the knife slice went. I'm going to fill up the entire side in the same diagonal direction, and then I will flip it over and do it on the other side. If I still have garlic cloves left, then I will turn it around and start doing it from the other direction until I run out of garlic cloves. So let's get started. As you can see, some of the garlic cloves go in easier than others. That's why we cut them down to size. The fatter they are, the harder it is to insert them. And we'll speed up the process here so we can keep this video to a reasonable length. Okay, now that we're finished with inserting all of our garlic cloves, we'll grab the remainder of our marinade, spread it over the top, and if you don't have any leftover marinade or you scraped a whole lot of the spices off the top, you can add some more back at this point, and it's ready for the oven. Okay, now it's time to start our sauce. The original recipe called for 1 cup of chicken broth, which you would reduce by half on the stove. But I'm going to start with a half cup from the get-go and just add enough of better than bouillon to achieve that directly. So our 1/2 cup of chicken broth is now simmering. It's time to add our shallots, give it a stir, and cook over medium heat until they become translucent. Okay, now that our shallots are translucent, it's time to add in the next batch of ingredients, starting with approximately 2 tablespoons of honey. And then 1/4 cup of apple cider, 1 teaspoon's worth of thyme, and then finally 3 cups of black currants. We then stir our black currants, coating them with our broth, and then simmer them over low heat until they have broken open and released all of their juices. Okay, our sauce has been simmering for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, the berries have pretty much broken open and released their juices. If any have not, you can squish them against the sides of the pan to get them to do so. At this point, you could choose to serve the sauce in this rough form by adding the last of the ingredients, salt, pepper, and butter, or you could choose to strain it, which is what we're going to do. So I have a second saucepan and a sieve here, And what we're going to do is we're going to spoon the sauce gently into the sieve, trying not to spill any, because black currants are one of the most powerful natural dyes on the planet and are notorious for staining clothing. Okay, let's get this pan out of the way, and then we can start pressing our sauce through the sieve to get as much liquid out of it as possible, leaving behind the black currant skins, the shallots, and the thyme. And there we have it. Okay, at this point our sauce is effectively finished. We're going to season it with some salt and some pepper. And then finally we will mount the sauce with about a tablespoon of butter. Once the butter melts and is incorporated into the sauce, it will give it a really nice velvety texture. And there we go, it's ready for the meat. So our pork loin was in the oven for a little over an hour. So now we will grab our thermometer and check to see if the internal temperature made it to 165 degrees. And it looks like, yes, we did achieve 165 degrees for an internal temperature. And we will then transfer our pork loin to this drip catching cutting board. And then we will let it sit for about 15 minutes after we wrap it in some aluminum foil to keep it warm. And now it's the moment everyone has been waiting for. We're going to serve up our pork loin. We'll get rid of our aluminum foil, and then we will start carving a couple of nice thick slices. I cut them thick so that we keep the garlic cloves in as much as possible. And there you can see them on that slice. The second slice here, a couple of them popped out on me, but we'll just put them on the plate afterwards. And now we'll add our sauce and we'll be good to go.
And there you have it, a herb encrusted, garlic infused, oven roasted pork loin served up with a blackcurrant game sauce. So let's take a moment and talk about some potential variations. Obviously you could change out the herb medley that we put into our marinade, as well as the flavor of the balsamic vinegar. I mean, you go with regular balsamic vinegar. We used cherry. You could also go with peach or fig or pear. They all work well. And if you happen to run out of sauce before you run out of pork, you can create a sandwich from your pork easily enough. A really good combination is to get some of those hot cross buns that are made out of pretzel dough and make a sandwich out of those. A slice of it with some salt and pepper and a slice of Swiss cheese makes a great sandwich. And another possibility is use a piece of hearty bread and make an open-faced sandwich with a slice of the pork and cover it with a very thin layer of black currant marmalade. My sister-in-law taught me that trick. So that does it for today's episode. If you've liked what you've seen here today, please subscribe to my channel. So until next time, keep kit bashing in your kitchen.